Hey everybody, here are the notes for 3.2 and 3.3, which are one-step inequalities. So there's not a whole lot to do here. Actually, I just have 6 examples to go through to show you guys for these. And there's no notes to take. This is not really going to be anything new or different than we've ever done before, even if this is your first time solving an inequality, because we're going to solve these just like we solve equations. There's one thing, one kind of new thing for this, and I'll make sure I make that very clear and point it out when we get to it. Okay, so anyway, let's just start in here. And I'm sorry, the reason we're doing these two sections together, 3.3 or 3.2 and 3.3, is because 3.2 has just adding and subtracting. 3.3 has a multiplying and dividing. I decided to kind of put them all into one since, like I said, we're not going to really learn a whole lot of new stuff here. So, for example, this first one, x minus 9 is less than or equal to 4. If I'm going to solve this inequality, I'm going to do it just like I would an equation. How do I get rid of the minus 9? I'm just going to add 9 to both sides. That'll get rid of the minus 9 here. And x is less than or equal to 9 plus 4 is 13. And that is it. Again, we're going to do the exact same thing we're always going to do. They will ask you to graph a lot of these or select the graph. Okay, so I'm not going to do that for every one of these, but just to remind you, if I'm going to graph x is less than or equal to 13, again, I'm going to sketch it here real quick. 13 is kind of a bigger number, so let's just kind of estimate, and let's say 13 is way over here. So the symbol is less than or equal to, which means, let me change colors so we can see it a little better. I'm going to put a solid dot on the 13, and since it's less than or equal to, I'm going to make sure it's pointing to numbers that are less than 13. And again, the arrow and the symbol are also facing the same way since the x, the variable, is first. Okay, so next one, let's keep it going. And this I kind of realized the other day in 3.1 that I didn't quite maybe show you this, and it might have popped up in the assignment. So I want to make sure I went over some that where the equation or the inequality looked backwards, I guess you might want to say. But here, same thing. I have y minus 7. How I get rid of the minus 7? Oops, I already did minus 1. I forgot to make that a plus. Hold on. Let's make this y plus 7 instead. Plus 7. There we go. So how do I get rid of the plus 7? I'll just subtract 7 from both sides. That'll get rid of it there. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. Is greater than y. Ooh, yuck. That was terrible. Greater than y. There we go. Okay, so if I'm going to graph this, or if I'm going to identify the graph of this, I don't like to leave it like this. This is confusing to me. Okay, maybe it's not for you, and if it's not, great, good for you. But it is for me. I like it a lot better when I have the variable first. So I'm going to flip this thing around, but I got to make sure when I flip it around, this is not an equal sign there, it's an inequality symbol. So I got to make sure I flip that around too. So it's almost, I kind of imagine like if I could pick this thing up, negative 10 is greater than y. If I could pick it up off the screen and just flip it over, what would it look like? Or kind of what would it look like? So it's y is less than negative 10 would be my answer that way. When it's sitting like this, that gives me a much better idea of what the graph should look like, where the arrow should be pointing because my variable is first. Okay? So if you want to do that, or if you feel like you need to do that like I do, just make sure you flip the symbol around too when you flip those around. Okay. Excuse me, let's keep going here. Division, x divided by 3 is less than negative 4. Again, nothing new. I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of the 3. And x would be less than negative 12. Okay, I could graph that, make an open circle on the negative 12. Okay, and then make sure my arrow is pointing to the left when I do that as well. All right, but let's keep going. Y over negative 2 is greater than or equal to 5. All right, here we go. This is where we have our new thing. Now, I'm not going to solve it any differently. I have y divided by negative 2. So what am I going to do to get rid of it? I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 2. Okay, I'm just going to put it in the negative 2 over there in parentheses so I don't get it messed up with a minus sign or something like that. Excuse me. Okay, but the difference here is when we multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, we have to flip the inequality symbol. Okay, because that changes the value of our inequality. If we don't flip it around and we check our answer, which I should have mentioned before, if I don't flip this around and I check my answer, okay, it will not work in that equality. So my answer of y is less than or equal to negative 10. If I put negative 10 in for y, or negative 11, negative 12, so on and so forth, if I put any of those numbers in, that should work for this. If I would forget to flip my symbol, and say y is greater than or equal to negative 10, and I start putting those numbers in, you'll find out that it doesn't work. Okay, so whenever you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol. Okay, that's the only one new thing for this for solving with inequalities. Okay, so hopefully if we can just remember that part, hopefully the rest of this, we'll do multi-step inequalities. Hopefully, since we did equations last chapter, this stuff will just seem kind of like almost a review, because we're going to do a lot of the same stuff. All right, so here's a multiplication one. 2 thirds x is greater than or equal to negative 16. Okay, I threw one in there with a fraction just to remind you. So this is a multiplication problem, right? 2 thirds times x. So again, let's stop and think. I would divide both sides by 2 thirds, but we never divide by a fraction, right? We always do keep, change, flip. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3 over 2 here instead. Okay, that'll get rid of this. Okay, remember, instead of dividing by 2 thirds, we're going to multiply by 3 over 2. We multiply by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip. Okay, that'll give me x is greater than or equal to. I multiplied both sides by a positive number, so I don't have to flip the symbol. And then over here, I'll make that 16 over 1 times 3 over 2. Can cross reduce. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 16 8 times. Gives me 24 over 1, or just 24. So x is greater than or equal to 24 for my answer for that one. All right, last example I have for you here. And again, I kind of tried to make this one a little more confusing by flipping it around and all that kind of junk. So I have negative 12 is less than negative 4 times x. So first thing is, what am I going to do to solve? So to get rid of the negative 4, I have to divide both sides by negative 4. So negative 12 divided by negative 4 is 3. Since I divided both sides by a negative number, I have to flip the symbol. And then I just have my x because I got rid of the negative 4. So again, like I said up above, I don't like them like this. I'm going to flip around to make it x is less than 3, so that when I pick out my graph or draw my graph, like I guess I could do this one real quick as well. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's less than 3, so it's not equal to, so it's got to be an open circle at 3, and then it should be pointing that direction, same direction as my inequality symbol when my variable is first. All right, that's really it for this section. It's just these one-step equations. So it's going to be solving just like you always have solved. It's just the one thing again, one more time. If you multiply to both sides, let me start again. If you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality symbol. Okay, if you remember that rule, this assignment's going to go really well for you. Okay, let me know if you have any questions.